Afternoon. At the onset, I'll thank all the organizers who have given me this very great opportunity to interact with various learned scholars and monks. And what I would like to do in the next half hour is, I would like to give you a simple overview what sleep is. Even though many things have been said about sleep in the ancient text, in the Indian traditions, but scientifically, the sleep, or to understand the neurophysiological correlates of sleep, what happens to brain during sleep and different stages of sleep, it is not fully understood or it is not fully developed. A simple question of why sleep is essential, a definite answer is not there. What is the function of sleep? If you ask a definite answer, it's not there. So the field of sleep in the neuroscience is just a very recent one. That too, understand the sleep in expert meditators is very, very new. Even though we have a lot of literature about the studying of sleep in the normal person, but is the sleep a different in an expert meditator or experienced meditator is the new questions that we are asking, and I would like to throw some of our results which we have carried out in our laboratory. So in this sense, I just skipped some of the slides. So for us, what do you mean by a consciousness? Or how sleep can, or studying a sleep, or the studying how the brain works during sleep, does it in any way helps us to evaluate or helps us to understand the neurophysiological underpinnings of consciousness? Neurophysiologically speaking, the consciousness is how can an organism, or how can we as a person, I can access to different neuronal networks. Why a subjective experience to me is different from somebody else? Why the subjective experience to me during my behavioral state throughout the day is different from something somebody else is, could be because I have an access to different neuronal networks. So how is this we can understand during sleep is very, very important. Taking the clue from the vision research, because to understand the consciousness means neurophysiologically, vision in the research in the vision has given us a lot of information about brain. When I see you people, when the light falls on my retina and goes to my occipital cortex, how do I consciously perceive, yes, I am seeing you people or you are seeing me? It's only when there will be a feedback connections. What do you mean by feedback connections? In the brain, we have what is called neural network. There's two neurons, they go and they interact with each other. There should be again a feedback connections. So when we have these feedback connections or the recurrent connections or the recurrent information processing that takes place in the brain, that will give an access to a conscious perception. The same, whenever you have a recurrent connections with one area to the another area, say for example from the vision, I have a recurrent connection to my language area. From there, I have a recurrent connection to my frontal cortex. Then I have an access of my vocabulary, or they use the word to describe what I'm seeing. So this recurrent connections is the main basis of a conscious experience. Now you take recurrent is always conscious, or the feed forward connections in the brain is always, most of the time, is unconscious. Now, so to gain an accessibility to different neuronal networks for the conscious experience, the recurrent connections or the feedback connections are very, very important. Now, let me take a clue from meditation practitioners. Now, what is this? Say, for example, in the meditation practices that we do, consciously we just have a witness, that is what is happening in our bodily sensations. We consciously just have a witness, say for example, starting from the breath or starting from a mantra or what it may be. So that now, and we are consciously, now we are looking for our visceral sensations. So now here what is happening is the recurrent information from the visceral sensations from my breath is going back to the brain. So when this neuronal network or when this recurrent information is going to the brain, this particular networks, it becomes very strong and strong and strong, so that we try to give an attention to one particular attribute of the conscious or one particular attribute of our consciousness. Now, so when we do a meditation, so the first talk we saw that we have a thalamus and we have a cortex. Thalamus is one where all the information comes, and from this information it goes to the cortex, and this we call it as thalamocortical network. In this thalamocortical network plays a very, very important role in the meditation practice. When we are awake and when I'm conscious at this point of time, my thalamocortical network is in an active state. Or when I become a drowsy, when I go to sleep, my thalamocortical network is in an inactive state. We call it as hyperpolarized state. It's all our experience. When I was initiated first to a meditation classes, when I start meditating, after a few minutes, generally all of us, we feel very drowsy. Then again, we consciously, I perceive, yes, I'm supposed to say, focus on my breath or focus on my mantra. Again, I'll become very active. After a couple of minutes, again, we'll have this drowsiness. So, in this particular state, when I'm active, focusing on a given task, and after that, when I become a drowsy, what is happening to thalamocortical network is, for certain extent, it becomes active. After certain extent, it becomes hyperpolarized or it becomes deactive. But as an expert meditator, I go on practicing regularly the meditation. My meditative state will be in such a that neither I will be fully active, nor I will be fully drowsy or sleepy, somewhere in between. Now, the maintenance of this particular state, where the thalamocortical network, it is not either fully active or nor it is fully depolarized, in a very delicate link, this thalamocortical oscillation should take place. How such practices will bring about this delicate balance in thalamocortical oscillations, neither it is active nor it is inactive, is a very, very great question or a very critical question to understand the neurophysiological correlates of meditation practices, which we do not know how actually it happens. There could be some subtle changes that could be brought about in these meditation practices. Now, when such delicate balance is maintained, definitely there should be an efficient or a different type of connections that should take place from thalamus to the cortex. Now, by taking the clue from the basic sleep neurophysiology, what happens during sleep? The number of studies have shown that during sleep, those neuronal networks which were predominantly active during my waking hours will reactivate by itself during my sleep. So this is the most basis of, we call it as neural plasticity during sleep, or even with that of a memory consolidation. If I learn something or I focus, say during my waking hours, I'm focusing on too much on one particular subject, I'm reading and reading, some network in my brain is very active. When I go to sleep, the same neuronal network is being reactivated. This is the basis of memory consolidation or whatever happens that is during sleep. So there are many studies we have shown that these meditation practices have a tremendous amount of effect on waking state, on waking behavior, on cognition, on perception, and all those things. But does these intense meditation practice brings about any change in my sleep? That's the question that we have asked. So what is a sleep? Sleep is a very complex behavioral state. It is not a single state. I mean, it is not a uniform state, we have many cycles of or different types of sleep, which is brought about by interaction of many things. It could be neuronal, it is psychological, you have endocrine system, you have a circadian regulation. All those things in turn bring about this sleep. Now, during sleep, so let me just tell you about the normal sleep. So we know that we have two types of sleep: NREM sleep and REM sleep. REM sleep, we call it as rapid eye movement sleep. NREM is non-rapid eye movement sleep. Suppose if you look in any person, at least 1.5 hours after he goes to sleep, you can see that his eyeballs start rolling. That is, we call it as a REM sleep. So during a whole night sleep, we go to different stages of sleep. Say this W is a wake state. When I go for a sleep, say at 10:30 in the morning or 10:30 in the night, for a few 10 minutes I be very drowsy. Then I go for a NREM sleep. I start. I go to stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4. Stage 3 and stage 4 is called as deep sleep or a slow wave sleep. After that, I come to my first cycle of REM sleep. This dark band, you call it as, it is a REM sleep. In this REM sleep is a one where we dream. And in this dream, the emotional component of dream is predominant during this REM sleep. Now, this stage 3 and stage 4 sleep is very, very important. In this stage 3 and stage 4, that is called as deep sleep, where there is a sensory deafferentiation, or when all our sensory input is blocked, brain is by itself. During my waking hours, what is happening? There are so many bombardment that is coming to my brain, and my brain is always very busy with sorting out some information, taking some relevant information and all those things. But during my deep sleep, when all my sensory input is blocked, brain is by itself. In this particular state, when thalamocortical oscillations is almost hyperpolarized, that we call it as slow wave sleep, when no other information is coming into my brain, the brain talks to itself. We call it as cortico-cortical oscillations. The cortical network and the cortical network, they talk to each other. This we call it as very slow wave sleep. This very slow wave sleep, this very slow wave waves, which is around less than 1 hertz, plays a very, very important role in many physiological functions, including when I get up in the next day morning, how fresh I do feel. Now, so we have this REM sleep. So this one particular thing of NREM sleep and REM sleep, we call it as one sleep cycle. So for a one whole night, we have 4 to 5 sleep cycle for a normal person. Now what happens? So one other important aspect of sleep is the one physiological function, the first which changes with aging. No other physiological functions changes with aging. The first thing that changes with age is the reduction of this slow wave sleep. If a person is around 20, 25 plus, his slow wave sleep starts coming. When the person is around 50, 55 or 60 plus, his slow wave sleep completely disappears. And when person crosses 65 or 70, his REM sleep starts coming down. And this reduction of slow wave sleep means a lot to what happens in the neuronal network. When there is a retention of this slow wave sleep, when the neuronal network of cortex to cortex, they dialogue with each other, it means a lot to the brain. It means a lot subjectively for us, for our subsequent day function. So what are the functions of sleep? Just an overall view. We have a restoration, recovery, energy conservation, and dreams, memory consolidation plays, brain growth, repair. So of course, we know that sleep is very, very essential for our survival. What we have studied is, we have evaluated the sleep of a very expert meditators aging from 30 to 70 years. And we have found that even a 70-year person who has been meditating for a longer duration of time, regularly, he has a slow wave sleep with that of an young adult. It speaks volumes about how thalamocortical network or the brain or the neural network of different brain, they interact with each other. And also, we have seen the REM percentage of REM is more in the meditators. So, what is there in the REM? In the REM is a dream state, and slow wave sleep or the NREM sleep, all these years we consider it as a NREM, non-dream state of sleep. But there are few reports which tells that even during NREM sleep there is dream, but the content of dream is different. In the REM sleep, the content of the dream is more of emotive in nature, and in the NREM sleep, the dream is more of working memory in nature. So, when a meditator, an expert meditator, who could able to sustain during his meditation practice the thalamocortical network in a very delicate balance, not of too active, not of too inactive, when he can retain the slow wave sleep more, and when his REM sleep is more, it means that, yes, there is a good crosstalk between various neural networks that is taking place, and his dream state is also more. Not only this, we have also seen that during his slow wave sleep, we call it as what is a delta power. Delta wave is a very slow wave that indicates a slow wave sleep. What do you mean by a power? From the neurophysiological sense, the power is the amount of neurons that are working to bring about a particular stage. How many neurons it is working to bring about a particular stage. So we have seen that even though meditators have a very large percentage of slow wave sleep, but their delta power is less. What does it mean? It means that a very less amount of neurons are very much sufficient enough to bring about a more work. Very less amount of neurons is very much sufficient to bring about more work. It also means that intense meditation practice, it brings about more economy for the brain or the conservation of energy. So this is what we say, that the delta power and the theta power in the slow wave sleep is tremendously reduced in the expert meditators. Now, during waking hours, so the cognitive studies, it has shown that the combination of theta waves and gamma frequency, it is a correlation of the memory processing that is taking place. Even animal studies have shown that a combination of alpha and gamma is more for that of attention process. So when I give an attention to one particular task, so my alpha and gamma is more, and when I try to rehearse it and put it into my memory bank, then theta and gamma is predominant. These two that is present in our waking state. So, and we also heard, Dr. Roy, that there is a 40 hertz frequency that happens in our neural network. We call it as a gamma frequency. So gamma frequency is one of the major function of the gamma frequency of the brain is that it tries to glue the different areas of the brain together so that my sensory perception of the external world, I perceive it as a single unit, not as a different unit. What I mean is, you are seeing me, I am talking, even though the information processing capacity of the different neural network is different, but for my overall experience, you seeing me and you hearing me is everything simultaneously. It is not that you see me first and then you hear. So this binding of different areas of the brain is brought about this gamma activity that is called as 40 hertz sensory of this gamma activity. Now this presence of this continuous gamma activity in any state, whether it could be a wake state or whether it could be a sleep state, especially with that of a REM sleep state, it brings about a unity of experience or a conscious experience. Whenever there is a interruption in this gamma activity of this neuronal communication between the different neuronal network, it will be non-conscious. So in terms of neurophysiological correlate, the conscious experience means how a different neural network, they integrate themselves and it gets an overall integrated information. So does this integration of information, does this happen during sleep? Is the another question. But if you happen to analyze the powers, I mean the EEG power during a normal sleep of a normal person who is not been practicing any of these meditation practices, we can say that his gamma activity is not there, or it could be very, very minimal. But the same we have seen that an expert meditator, a very senior, experienced meditator, even during his REM sleep, there is an increase in gamma activity. This is one important aspect, because when you ask any meditator, right, either he will be a lucid dreamer. Lucid dreamer means he knows that he is dreaming, or even though he is not a lucid dreamer, when he gets up, he can narrate his dream sequence by sequence, sequence by sequence. So as a subjective experience during REM sleep, during my dream state, my subjective conscious experience is entirely different from that of a other person who is neither a lucid dreamer nor he can recollect his dream sequence by sequence. Now, so during sleep, what happens? That is, there is no external stimuli that is coming up, that is coming inside. The brain itself is generating its own intrinsic activity, and this intrinsic activity is largely dependent on how my neural network they interact with each other during my waking state. So how do I neurophysiologically I correlate that he he dreams a lot, he doesn't dream a lot, apart from the subjective input. So there could be some error in the subjective experience or a subjective input, but some of the studies have shown that during REM sleep, so there will be eye movements. More the eye movement, one of the explanation for this eye movement is it is a saccade that will try to scan the visual image that comes during the dream. So more the saccade, it means that yes, there could be a more amount of a dreaming that is taking place. So here we have seen that is during a control subject, means a person who is not meditating, his saccade is less when compared to a novice who has given a session in a meditation, or a person who is an experienced meditator, his saccade is highly significant. It is very, very more. So more the saccade of eye movement we have seen in the long-term meditator, it means, or it could be a story that tells that yes, there will be a lot of dreaming that comes in the in the long-term meditators. So apart from that, so what else happens is during sleep is very important. So in the first session, we saw that there is a thalamus and there is a cortex. There is an interaction between the thalamus and the cortex. At the same time, there is also a lot of interaction that takes place from the cortex back to one structure. We call it as hippocampus. Hippocampus in the brain is the very main area where this memory consolidation takes place. So during sleep, whatever the information that we have collected during our waking hours, the same neural network it replays, and the information exchange it takes place from cortex to the hippocampus back to the cortex. This is what is called as theta gamma dynamics. In this theta and gamma dynamics, where this memory process it takes place, is that all our thoughts that we are generated during our waking hours, it goes to our memory during deep sleep, especially during deep sleep, that is slow wave sleep. That is to say, it could be, it could be from the philosophical terminology, our samskaras can be given during sleep? I do not know. I'm not well versed with the traditional text, but I overheard somebody telling that our samskaras are rooted in the sleep. But I don't know whether we can really correlate with these two or not. I have to get the feedback from the Buddhist scholars and the monks over here. So this is the overall view that I have given, is that during sleep, yes, it will be one of the good paradigm to study the neurophysiological correlates of consciousness, is because that brain is not bombarded with lot of noise that comes with input from the various sense organs. During sleep, it also that brain is for itself, and the state of neural network that happens during sleep is more dependent on what our mental state will be during waking hours. So during sleep, we can study the function of the brain by its or the function of the brain by itself, but without any noise that is coming up. So even though these ideas are very new, it has not been much experimented, but I thought, let me share these hypothetical things with you people so that I can get a good feedback and go back and plan for something else. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ravindra. And we have time for a few questions before the lunch break. While you all are thinking about and recording your questions, which we'll collect, we'll start with any questions from our monastic scholars.
And Tomlin number down. And Terry Kawan number, then the chair pepe, some along in some show the chapter do. During the and Trua should cock and on the la, need to jichi, should ye. And it added the Tombotua Majibuna and Marang some to Jishu Chua. And it added the Kasankani Suni Tadimakashi Rinla, Tadandi. And Jachi things up drawing the Digi Nantavadi, Marangini, Ziji Chambuchi Zio, De Mazibi, De Pendo Chambuchi Yumike, and Revayo. And then De Mazibi, and Maopanaya, and Nambi Tirita, Tadu in Kiwan number town, and the Tiri Kiwan number Pike, and a Pensu, Samsu. Good in the any months not to be in us, and till the and 20 Chambuchi tend to Sambike and in Haranki Rewayo. Teta Mazipike and in Tanda Samlin di Nala and Lusing Gangata and in Kuyu Soji Ganga Mabuchi Yondegi Yore. Tesoya and Shini he did to be and Rewachi Young Yare Sangdo and a Consajanguchum Choke Tindigi Lapchinchi Gongi de Paje Tiniji Rosambi and Haronki Samsuchio and the Tari de Nigi Choashia de Carresna and Siriba Town. And the Jinawa Mambuchi Nansuki ki yu Shetando Tessade Hiruji any Karasa were Dandochi and Mansuki Gongi Wambo Senare and Dalen Trapunta and Dachi Trapunki June Lebalaya Dashi Tene and Tigi and Tachu Shivs on the G, Tinichi Tatsundochi, Use on the G, Haronki, Tonandochi, Tinichi Jung. And Yinaya, and once a Siripa, Mambuchiki, that Tindiki, Leba Tambachiki, and the Shichibuji Jadu Yinaya, T. Kalaya, Chazanchi, Dongmevanochi, Tindiki, Tatsuchi, Yesare, Yesasandochi, Harochi, Tonson. Ani tanda di konke ani ni kolaya ani mambuchi sonson te gansu nambi yuni chiina ani ni ji sawa ko sumsa ji tindi ni kala ji yongyare nga yung tindi nalola te soge tumbu hiwno ji yongson ji kasana tapni ka hibasa de ngunzin menzen re ma to ki pa rima umtan do ta ni da ti jela ni la tang tang do da ti kan la ni chu ni se dang ki tin ri ko la chi sung yo re so de tumbo hiu yo zhen de ji ngarong gen tong sang ani tanda de ni jwa di hyu de karesana ani tin ri ke shiru yuji dan ra wo chi kibo ta ma yin ba ni ji ni ka ta ani gom tin ri ka la ya nangi samlu ge phini shiru ji da yo ma yin ba nangi samlo ta ji ngan su chama lo ani nyong cho se na man do ngan si ge nyong to ge tro de san de je re te ma ji pi ge ani pa da ro tin ri ji shiru ka sa go ta kong ge nyam ji ji ni pa da ro chi ma bu ji yu san de je re tin ri ge yin bi ka te la ani 칼라고레 텔라 아니 판단도스나문도 칼라고 단데 히베기 원자기 기보 마인바 데니 유행에다 용에로지 여바텔라 아니 제르반 남지 텔라 히바사데 아니 문진 집이나 아니 좀 가려요레스 옹이 딘지 도와주신도 좀 듣잖아.
I have a question, but before I say put forward my question, I would like to give a little thought of how I felt about this kind of conferences. For the past 3 days, we are having a very profound dialogue between scientists and Buddhist scholars. And I hope that there will be more this kind of dialogues in the future. And during this kind of conference and dialogues, I hope that the problems that we face in our world these days, like whether it is related with environment or related with economic or related with our own subjective feelings, if we can highlight these kind of problems during such kind of conference, then it would be a very good opportunity to put forward our problems, the pertinent problems that we face in this modern age. And then I have a question, and so my question is that when I'm listening to the science presentations by our science presenters, I felt that whenever they talk about the perception of the objective world, they always talk about information coming from the objective world, and then it goes through these sensory perceptions, sensory organs, and then we have this perception of whatever it is. And I have a feeling that this kind of description of consciousness that only depend on the information coming from the objective world through the sensory organ and then to the brain is not enough. And I think this all the neuroscience faculties or the neuroscience community, they also kind of believe that this kind of description is not enough to give full description about the consciousness. And then our last presenter, he talked about the dream and sleep states, and in Tibetan also, especially in the Tantrayana or the Tantra tradition of Tibetan Buddhism, we have a detailed description about different stages during our sleep and why. And then there are also different types of dreams that happen throughout the sleep stage. And when I listened to the presentation, I found that it's kind of similar. There are similarities between the sleep and dream stages that is described or mentioned in the Tibetan Buddhism and what you have presented from the neuroscience point of view. And then my question really is that during the sleep stage, or when we are dreaming, or when we are sleeping, we are not getting information from the objective world, and still we can create awareness and consciousness. And then what is the problem? Is there any problem if we say that during that time, since there is no information coming from the objective world, there's something that stimulates that kind of stage, or the awareness is caused by the consciousness itself? Can we say like that?
So we know that so during sleep there is no any external information that is bombarding the brain, but during sleep it is only the internally generated or information that interacts with the different neural network. Now, as I told you in my talk, that the network which were active during my waking state will itself reactivate during my sleep. Now, and this reactivation of the neuron during my day hours so will generate, or sometimes it can also give an access to some of the other neural network which were not, or which were insulated for the activity. So during sleep what happens is, probably it is just a probable answer, it's not a definite answer, that this particular state will give an access for the various other neural network. So when this access to various neural network it comes, then this will generate a particular state of a, a particular state of experience or a subjective experience. But is this driven by the conscious itself? I have no answer for this. Provided if I take a definition of consciousness is only an access to the different neural network, then I can say yes. But if you say that consciousness is all pervasive and it is everything it is present, then I have no clue about it.
Maybe I can add something. I can add few more things to his statements. That our conscious experience, which we get in awakening state, that is determined by 40 Hz or gamma oscillations, and same gamma oscillation present in the REM sleep state. So, how these phenomena is being generated even in the absence of external stimulus during REM sleep, that gives rise to statement like even there is a consciousness even in the REM sleep. And moreover, even in the awakening state, if you see what he is calling neural network, some neurons, they are shown to be active, firing, and some neurons, they are shown to be passive, as if they are not firing. So, couple of years before, people thought that those neurons who are not firing, they are not taking part in any activity. But now they blocked it. When they blocked it with some artificial medicine, the phenomena completely changes. So the neurons which seems to be passive, they are not passive. So whole network is interdependent. Though some are taking place activity and some are not. So it is still not yet understood fully which part is responsible and how it is doing all these things. Still it is infancy.
다른다 녀람세디 녀람기 내가 없들라 니 두고 내가 없들라 니 나한테 왕시 삼제 군신 남제를 막 두유스 내 메슈나 세도 근데 저다 얘기 남시서 디서체 그래서 디갑데 단데 가나면 시 통도 인연도 쏘았다 봐도 두번 내려준다 넘버 2 소리래 근데 저 가서 디시 잡이나 셈나 저 체고레스 가이스는 이메고는 지게 뭐로 가리네 깨럽지 믹서를 통제 통과된 셈나래 하고 지 가서 주구를 좀 퇴바스도 간에 양직 도와 내주로 다 상해 가리니 직퇴 디 셈로 또 직야 죽을 중 소왔다 바스 간에 딘데 소왔다 제수 직 가소래 되는 주에서 양직 두벌 비캡제 딘데기 두다 서로 딱 통도용도 소왔다 봐 두번 내려주 넘어 두스 뭐 디게 디 깨럽제 디게 삼료나 링두 간에 엔차나고라 디 가서 딱고 디 바자 녀람나 링두 간에 녀람나 통과된 거 샤워 가서 통화된 녀람 샤워 퇴바된 녀람 샤워 melon jamne ndi tumde khali ne tige melam sha ya dubar chene di ko kaso ra ngaso da de de tige dubar so dinde yeba si chikshe go ha dige zo semla da yi lam ting da tingim do tu sta che go yes ta dine melam ne gap del gains na torang du zu la ni ngaso mention na chi do kana torang lung du zu re dine torang du zu melam chwa di zo lung ten chu ma anjing chengon do nyelam chwa di ane di kasa 티벌 때마 애니 쇼크에 소름데다 직 가서 다 권다 치고 멜람 중앙디 백엔 때문에 있어요. 뒤중간에 야 뒤주 수수도네 지게 토랑 두줄은 지금 원보다 나고는데 ཉ람 당기면서 야 생군도 할 지게 세보다 마고 ཉ람 당에서 애니 나도다 권다 두줄 까부 당에디 신다 개말이 백엔다 농도 티버디게 니 디레스 가사 프랑주 다 하도 the Tibetan, England was done. Is that getting us several? Penezur of Jiggy cats out with that Jungbina, Tilam San Seminal, Pogul Jungbina, Karjumbine, and this now Yelam Shire to Gane. These are Tonding and the Soatawana to an election number 2 set of or Dichi and Yelam Neg of the La Kanje, Washi Digetma, Kalanzamchik di Kasata, the Kushinamashival do there, you saw Chik to do us, this Sungsha. Tindugane. 다시 원수님이 미대 대비의 미 교자원인의 매매 미배 미가 암지 딱 키란 미를 자원인의 교면도 키란에 야가 미 패시 다 전부리나 아유스의 미지게 지나올도 이년에도 간에 아니 니 뒤도 할 남주 코나 가보기 왜 오는데 때문에 아니 통해 매어디 가인수간에 미 코나 온고 디 가서 다 온고 디다 딱다요디 디 나로 되게 왕시 디게디 왕시 디 매어디 김zel 때네 아니 queen 잡투가 말했어. 다들 왕시 수간에 셰발 다 셰바드 간에 중부터 세대 건낭베는 메슈나라. 당 토마 디지도 간에 랑기스밀 옹고 남시 중 소래. 아니 queen 나바 셰발라 위네레 왔다 되네. 아니 랑기셈 되래. 아니 가서 옹고 남시 디게 중 스티도 간에 아니 당부 차베 내갑들라. 아니 queen 나바 셰발네. 아니 왕시 디게 파트웨버레스. 다 탑슈데 아니 지가 당한조 미 다 신도 예외 때려니 시간람들라 아니 왕시 되게 찍질파 찍질템 아니 당나시 중화대 찍질 탑슈대 아니 소글롱데 소글림네 아니 배 넘버 시월테네 시버신 용화시도 세제 메시나 디시 디게고 뒤도 간에 당 지금 예람 내가 되다는 소문은 시 되게 안주 메시 제는 통도용도 소았지 카도도 지다지도 간에 중에 카도를 되게 학과도 단 롱디 배경 숨 카도디 세우 쉬우지레스 그래서 뒤에디 양다가 시제 메시나 소고지고 마임장아 중국어서나 밀람 답가 남비네 밀람 내갑디네 덴디 킹그레스 디도 간에 조 간제 안주다 그시나마 셰프스구나 디 나로네 녀모베 이랑 엔디 소롱야 소글롱 디지도 간에 딱 간제 밀람 내가 킹그레 롱시 집에 녀람 쉬우지 딱 롱다 저 유대인 녀람 숙심부지나 남과라 풀어서 다 지기 쉬우디네 바데 인그레스 배경이 셰체베 녀람데 티도 간에 마페 살마 딤데베서 마 서위베서 딩그레스 엔 티베 인도 간에 지금 나로 멜라서 컨김로 소바이네 유로 소바 메츠부디레 딩그레스 디게 단 메슈나 세브시라요레스 첸슈이 so during the period of what you call the dream or sleeping and after the dream so we have an impression in our mind during the daytime, because either we have heard some very, impressive thing, or maybe not very good one, or we have heard, or even we have tasted. So any attraction that we have in our daytime from the five sensory organ has an impression in the mind. And that's why, so that impression, has a connection with our dream, and then we have that in the dream. So this is the source of different types of, you can say, dream. And then sometimes we have an influence of the dream by lung, tipa, and begin. I think you're familiar. You know, the lung has its time in early morning, dawn, and then begin in the evening or early morning, and then tipa in the midnight and midday. So that's why sometime in the morning you can have a dream, okay, and then maybe you might feel the color black or blue. At the midnight, maybe sometime yellowish or red, and early morning or in the evening you might have kind of like white colors. But along with that, what we feel is sometimes we have a feeling of flying, you know, in the space. So this is because it is connected with lung. And sometimes we feel, you know, like very hot. And even in the dreams, we have lots of red and red and yellow colors. And also we dream of fires in the night. And it has connection with mainly tipa and blood. And sometimes we have a heaviness that we feel, and also sometimes falls and sinking in the water or drunk. So this is because of the heaviness of begin that is connected with the dream, and then we have such a feeling from the consciousness. So this is how it is explained in Tibetan medicine.